Welcome to the Corporate Cup presents the DAFA News podcast, and we continue with our tradition of this exciting new set of episodes in the new year, which is basically previewing and speaking to all the captains of the upcoming Corporate Cup Edition 3. And we have with us Harinder, or Harry, as we very fondly call him, who's the captain of the Radio Mirchi team, who has been one of the star performers of the Corporate Cup, both the editions. And I have a lot of I would say pleasure and pride both because I've seen their performances on ground. To welcome him on the Dafa News podcast. Welcome, Harry.
Thank you, Dada. You're just too kind. You're just too kind. The pleasure is all mine.
No, I
It
think
is great
you guys
connecting with you again.
I think you guys deserve all the plaudits in terms of the performances that you have delivered. The team that has defended one of the smallest totals, if not the smallest, the team that has chased down one of the highest totals in the tournament possible. So I think when you talk about that, you're basically talking about the spectrum of talent that must have been on display for everybody to see from the Radio Mirchi team. So and the fact that you have led them on both the
Yes.
occasions to such successful and momentous what you call achievements. I think kudos to you and your team.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dada.
So that actually brings me to the first thing that I want to talk to you about for this edition. Of course, we keep talking during the course of the Corporate Cup, and we shall do so starting next Saturday. But you tell me something. What is it
I'm
that
sure.
you guys sometimes missed in making it to the final? Two editions, almost there, but somehow missed it. What
Mm.
just sort of was found wanting?
I think not able to capitalize in key matches because if I talk about the first edition, we lost the first match. Then we had to win our last two matches, which we did.
Correct.
And like you rightly
Correct.
mentioned, one of those matches was those matches where I think that is the lowest total that has been defended, some 60 odd runs that we
That's
defended.
right. Yeah. 72 or 74,
But
if
then
I'm not
again,
wrong.
we reached the semi-final.
Yeah.
Yes, something around that. Yes, I'm not too
Yeah.
sure about the number.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but when it comes to league stages, we are you know absolutely kicked about it. But otherwise, if I talk about the semi-finals, I think a couple of mistakes. That's what costs us because if I talk about the second edition, uh, I also told you during the post-match conversation also that in all probability we were a little overconfident
Hmm.
and we took the other team very lightly and we were not chasing a bigger total because that is something that you end up
Right.
chasing 9 out
Mostly.
of 10 times, but
Yeah.
we were a little we were a little casual in our approach. That's what something that costed us a final berth in the second edition. And I think in the first edition it was primarily not capitalizing in key moments, not able to soak in the pressure, and that's how I would like to sum up both the editions.
Your both your answers, both your responses carry.
One second.
Yeah.
आपने क्वेश्चन खत्म किया. I have to just put my phone on charging. मैंने क्वेश्चन के
Sure.
बाद तभी आपको बोला है so
Sure.
that
Sure.
आप
Sure.
उसके
Sure.
बाद
Sure.
अगर
I'm
बोल
just
सको
gonna
so that
pause it. Yeah.
just give me 1 second.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So, Harry, you the both your responses in the previous to the answers, the responses, they allude to one similar fact for me, which you just talked about. It was more about mental toughness, the mind strength that essentially cost you
Yes.
the final berth than abilities. Because I mean, there is no question of the ability that your team carried in the both the editions. I think second one, you guys were far stronger than the first one if I compare Team Radio Mirchi in edition 2 versus Team Radio Mirchi in edition 1. So what is it that you guys
Yeah.
are going to do better in terms of mental toughness in the third edition? What's going to change? How are you going
So
to
I think
address
that it's
that for
very
your team?
clear. When it comes to, I understood your question, but the only thing is, if you talk about mental toughness, there is not a lot that we can do you can do about it, there are only a couple of things. One, you need to only work on the basics. If you're bowling, so you have to stick to the fact that you have to bowl in the right areas. If you are batting, you need to understand the situation and bat accordingly, because many a times what happens, because the format is such, in every batch to require 30 of 10 odd balls. That's not the question, because it needs to be looked into the fact that, for instance, one of the matches where we had actually chased down around 140 runs, Lokesh started off, I will not say slowly, but rather compared to his innings, he, took off in the second half of it because he understood that situation. Uh, so I think primarily what we guys need to work on is to get the basics right, to understand the situation that you are in. You don't have to just go all out and start hitting every inning and pack yourself and do what you've been doing all your life. Just play proper cricketing shots, bowl in the right areas. That's the only way, Dada, that you can, in the end, cope up to the mental pressure that there is. Otherwise, there's nothing else. There's no rocket science. According to me, there's nothing much that you can do when it comes to taking care of the mental pressure that the game brings to you.
So I think you guys are in Group A. You start on Saturday, right? The first set of matches, of course, you have one of
Yeah.
your favorite competitors playing against you, Sports Tuck. So, I'm sure you would want to make take revenge. Maybe I mean, you might want to change your sweatshirt and call it Avengers instead of Super Dry, because you have to take take revenge of that defeat. But so what's your
We can change the name of our team from Radio Mirchi to Unsports Stuck.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, the yellow color is a very
All in
open
humor. All in
palette.
humor.
It's a very open palette. You can write whatever you want. But coming back to the whole seriousness of it, I think it's a sort of the start that you kind of needed perhaps in the tournament like this, where I won't say it's like it's like a mental must win. I mean, for every team that's participating wants to win the tournament. That's given. However, do you think that this is something that you have more of sort of
Mm.
wanting to prove to Team Radio Mirchi's own capabilities, that look, we are that good, and this time we got to nail it, and maybe a tough start to the whole group stage and the tournament is
Mm.
something that you guys perhaps needed?
Something needs to change, Dada, because the only thing is, I think you rightly mentioned, not because I'm a part of this team. I think we've proven our caliber in both the editions, given
Hmm.
the kind of matches we've won in whatever situation. So there is only one thing which is left, which is, of course, reaching the finals and winning it. So this tournament in itself becomes something where Radio Mirchi as a team has to, prove themselves where, they can do good in the knockout stages as well. Because that's the only thing which is, other things I think I off the bucket list that we have, that's the only thing that is left where we need to capitalize and work on the fact that we can do well in the knockout stages also. And you rightly mentioned this is somewhere, going to be a tournament where we have more things to prove in comparison to the other, tournaments that have happened, the couple of editions, because now we've reached that stage where people recognize Radio Mirchi as a team. There are comparisons to be done, because earlier we could have always called ourselves like underdogs, but still,
Right.
now there is a tag that they are a good team, but they don't flourish when it comes to the knockout tournaments. So yes, we have a lot to prove when it comes to the third edition, and that's primarily what we'll be gunning for. Hopefully, all the departments can work together and we can take one step closer, or maybe take it home this time around.
No, absolutely. Because see, I mean, I have seen the gameplay that you guys have had
Sorry.
over the course of both the editions, and you must have heard me also speak on camera as well, that it's a team that has always had the right mix of talent, and it was always so near yet so far for this team in both the editions. And I think when we had those post match chats, in the this thing, I mean, I always said that कि मिर्ची सुनने वाले को हमेशा खुश रहना पड़ेगा, तो खुशी सिर्फ जीत से ही आएगी. And it has to be a continuous sort of
Sure.
that do you think it's sort of like the final frontier? So the semi-finals will be the, because again, as you might be aware of the format, the top two teams from each group qualifies to the semis. So do you think semi-final is the final frontier, or do you think, as we are sort of, some people are making it out to be group A, where you have some tough contenders out there, do you think that is something which is sort of a challenge that you guys are going to relish before you actually take on the challenge of a semi-final?
So I think this time around we need to focus on the fact that every game is a challenge. We can't talk about the fact that we did really good in the league stage last time around. We can't take it casually, because if there are no good group league stages matches, there is no semi-final. Leave about the final for here. But then when it comes to the semi-final, it has to be out the fact that we don't have to take that baggage of the first two editions where we haven't done well in the semi-final stage. We need to focus on the fact that what our strengths are, if need be, or if we can get some information maybe by looking at a couple of streams of the other stage, other group. Basically, we can understand what their weaknesses are and work on our basics. I keep repeating this thing, but that's something what we need to focus on, because there's no rocket science, Dada.
Correct.
हम लोग लीग स्टेज को lightly नहीं ले सकते. We can't take the baggage lightly. Anyway, semi-final or final को आप ले ही नहीं सकते हो. But we can't take the baggage of not qualifying in the previous editions for the semi-final. And then in the finals also, if we reach, so we can't talk about the fact that at least now we've cleared the hurdle that we were not able to in the first two editions. Now we are done. So it's just that every match has their seriousness. If we win the first two, then of course the third match becomes big. So, every match has their own importance. One match not the right approach to it. So I think one match at a time, improving what did not work in the match that we won or we lost, basically. That's something that we need to go by step, is something that we'll be looking at for this year.
And of course, there are 8 matches in the group stage, so of course there is scope to make amends if there are some initial slip-ups as well. But yeah, it's like you rightly said. I mean, especially for your group, which is Group A, it is every match is important. Every match, like I said, to someone, you have to sort of look at it the way Argentina played the Football World Cup after losing to Saudi Arabia. They took every match as a final, and which is why they eventually, you know,
Exactly.
became triumphant. So I think perhaps, like, again, it's a mindset question. It's not a talent question. It's not an ability question. So sometimes, perhaps to make the distance, you have
Exactly.
to tell your mind that it is possible, rather than sort of prepare anything special. Of course, I completely agree with you. You have to do the basics right at all times,
Exactly.
and tell your mind that yes, it is possible. Take every match as a final, perhaps, for all you know, so that by the time you reach that semi final, it just looks like any
Exactly.
other match.
Hmm. Like you just spoke about the football, I can just give you an example, a couple of instances which has happened in the recent past in cricket. If you talk about Asia Cup, nobody was counting in Sri Lanka to lift it.
Absolutely.
They lost the first match so badly to Afghanistan. I think in all probability, the Sri Lankan players themselves were not, you know, don't talk about the final or lifting it. Maybe they were not even thinking of qualifying to the semi-final stage.
Right.
But how they regrouped, they worked on the fact that things can always work out if you trust each other in the team. Then, of course, they ended up lifting the Asia Cup. Then, if you talk about the recent World Cup, which has concluded, a team like England losing to Ireland, for whatever reason, Duckworth Lewis came into the picture. A loss is always
Correct.
a loss. To pick it up from there, and everybody were talking about the fact that
And
India
they
will
also had a
definitely win it,
washout
and the
against
kind of
Australia.
total that India had put in. Exactly. Exactly. They had a washout against Australia. And then, of course, the kind of match, the kind of display they had put in when it comes to Indian match, India wala match, 10 wickets, pitch बिल्कुल सीमेंट की भी हो भी है ना, तब भी it is very difficult to win it from 10 wickets, basically a total like 170 odd. So the example is are all there in every sport, but just mentioning a couple of them which has happened in the recent past. So you can't take the baggage, you can't take things, any department lightly. You can't be good at batting and bowling but not taking fielding seriously. So it वो टिक मार्क तीनों डिपार्टमेंट्स में होने बहुत ज्यादा जरूरी है, and that's something that every team should be focusing on, and we'll have a kick-ass tournament, I'm very sure about it.
Yeah, I think we are all very excited for this tournament. This is a bigger format. You've played in the previous two formats, which was a slightly smaller format, but this is a bigger format, more opportunity for everybody. Like I said, if you're playing 8 games in the group stage, then
I'm
then
sure.
there is no excuse to say that I didn't get enough opportunity. There is plenty of opportunity to make the
Exactly.
cut. So I think, and I look
Makes it
forward to
clear.
not
Exactly.
only seeing you and the Radio Mirchi team in the semi-final, but definitely this time in the final.
Will for sure, that has to
Right.
be one monkey which we have to keep off our back.
No, no, absolutely. And I'm so looking forward to sort of being part of covering that journey for you guys, starting this Saturday. So thank you so much, Harry, for speaking to us on the Dafa News podcast. And we really look forward to having you and the Radio Mirchi team
Thank you.
kick it off on the first day of Corporate Cup Edition 3. Thank you so much for your time. And I look forward
Sure,
to
Dada.
meeting you this coming Saturday with the inaugural session of the matches on day one.
For sure. For sure.
All right. All right. Thank you
For
so
sure,
much.
Dada. For
Take
sure.
care of
Pleasure
yourself
talking.
and see you soon. Bye bye.